Rabbi Sachs always said we should imagine a library, a huge library with thousands of books, shelves, rooms, and you can choose, you can pick, you can choose whatever you want to read from that type of book, other kind of book, this topic, this subject, whatever you want. Everything is available, everything is accessible, everything is free. That image, he said, is what Western culture tells us about our life. Just choose. But Jewish culture tells us something else. In his words, you enter a library, you see thousands of books, but then you see one book, and it has your family name on the cover. Meir, Levi, Cohen, Rabinovich, whatever. You see that name, it's your family name. So obviously, you take the book and you start reading it. And then you see, each generation wrote a page. It starts from Abraham and Sarah, Abraham Avinu, Sarah Imenu. They wrote a page about what was going on in their life, their heritage, their values, the messages they want to convey. Afterwards, you see Yitzchak and Rivka. They also wrote this page just for you. And then, page after page, generation after generation, you stop reading because you reach the last page. It's empty. Nothing is written there except for your first name. Sivan, Aravayal, Moshe, Yonatan, Yaakov, Dani. That's all. Just your name, and it's empty. How will you fill it? What will you write? What do you add? What is your Jewish chapter in our legacy? Rabbi Sachs always said, it's your responsibility. You should choose to be part of that enormous story, and it's your responsibility to write your own chapter. We should give that opportunity to our kids. It's the gift, it's the best present we can give them. That story, that sense of belonging. He gave that sense of belonging to everyone, and he also gave it to his close kids, to his private family. We want to hear a few words from Zach's family. Bevakasha.
Kvod Rosh Yeshiva, students, friends. Thank you, Sivan. It's not difficult to understand why my brother, Rabbi Sachs, felt such warm affection for Yeshivat Tfachot. First of all, Rabbi Sachs saw the Hesder Yeshiva movement as an ideal. My brother was incredibly proud of his 5 nephews in Israel, all of whom learnt in Yeshiva and served in elite combat units, as well as his niece, who herself completed a Hesder program. And of course, Rabbi Sachs was a major supporter of the activities of UJIA in the UK. Since my brother passed away, I've been asked a number of times to give some personal reflections on Rabbi Sachs as a brother. People seem to expect some remarkable insight as to how a young boy from a traditional Jewish home in London became such an outstanding moral leader. I'm afraid that I have to disappoint. In so many ways, our upbringing was remarkably normal. When my brother came downstairs in the morning, he didn't make a speech or give a keynote address. He made coffee and asked for the cornflakes. The house that we grew up in was certainly not an intellectual home, and there were more silences than conversations. So Rabbi Sachs' outstanding intellect and his remarkable abilities as a speaker were very much the product of his own drive and discipline. But my brother did take some very important characteristics from our home. From our late father, my brother learnt his appreciation of music and art and a deep emotional attachment to Judaism. From our late mother, my brother learnt the importance of holding on to friends. By the time that Rabbi Sachs began his intense Jewish education, by the time that he decided to become a rabbi, my brother was already a master of secular philosophy, intimately familiar with the entire spectrum of Western culture and civilization. On many occasions during the Shiva, I said that if it had been the other way round, my brother would not have been the Rabbi Sachs, the Rabbi Jonathan Sachs whom we know. Having completed his doctorate in philosophy, my brother then entered into a cave to study Torah and came out 7 years later. His wisdom was now a synthesis of modern culture and deep Torah learning. And it's this synthesis, the combination of living in the modern world, serving your community at the same time as living a Torah life, which made my brother so admire the Yeshivat Hesder movement. Synthesis rather than compartmentalization. Let your Jewish values flood through your life as a citizen of the modern world. As I was making notes for what I would say today, it wasn't clear to me if I would be speaking to Hesder students, to supporters of UJIA in England, or both. So I couldn't make up my mind whether I should open a Gemara or listen to a Rabbi Jonathan Sachs podcast. So let me do both. There are two important stories in Masechet Bava Metzia which cast light on Rabbi Sachs' view of responsibility of a Jew in the modern world. The first story is the famous story of the Tanur Shel Achnai. Without getting into detail, the question is whether a particular oven could become impure or not. The question depends on whether this particular household item, which is a kind of slapdash, amateurish, do-it-yourself item, constitutes an oven or not. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus says, no, this isn't an oven, it's just a few bits of brick glued together. Rabbi Yeshua says it may be a few bits of brick, but it serves its purpose, and therefore it is an oven, and subject to becoming impure. As the argument between the rabbis develops, a heavenly voice comes down and says that Rabbi Eliezer is correct. But the rabbis say the ruling goes against Rabbi Eliezer and goes according to Rabbi Yeshua, since the Torah does not belong in heaven. It belongs here on earth. The lesson is clear. We do not live in a perfect world. We live in an imperfect world, and it's our duty to make do with what we have and set about improving the imperfect world in which we live. The second story in Bava Metzia sees the rabbis asking Eliyahu HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, what is happening in heaven. It transpires that there's an argument going on in heaven between God and the angels. In Sefer Vayikra, the Torah talks about certain symptoms that result in a person becoming impure. If one symptom comes before the other, the person remains pure. If the other symptom comes first, the individual is impure. But the argument taking place in heaven is, what happens if there is a doubt as to which symptom comes first? God says one thing, the angels say the other. And God refers the dispute down to earth, to Rabbi Bar Nachmani, who is the expert on the matter. We have to stop and think about this. God and the angels are arguing about a case of doubt as to which symptom came first. But God has no doubt. God is all-knowing. Nevertheless, the issue is referred to Rabbi Bar Nachmani because, unlike heaven, this world is not a world of certainty. Unlike heaven, this world is a world of doubt. Because we mortals have more experience of doubt than even the Ribbono Shel Olam himself. For the students at Yeshivat Tfachot, who are doing so much to serve their country, to serve their people, the challenge is to merge your Torah values with the challenges of the modern world, to face doubt with confidence and belief, to form acts of kindness so that you can, in some small way, each and every one of you, heal this fractured world. And what about the podcast? Here is a beautiful thought from one of the last interviews that my brother gave. The interviewer asked Rabbi Sachs one of his standard questions. What would you say was the item that you purchased for less than $100 that most positively impacted your life? My brother replied immediately, noise-cancelling headphones. He said, and I quote, "These are the most religious objects I have ever come across, because I define faith as the ability to hear the music beneath the noise." My brother explained, what happens to us, so much of it is noise. There's so much going on in your life, and you are buffeted by a whirlwind of pressures, distractions. Faith is the ability to go deeper than the superficial, and to sense the wonders, the miracles that surround us. When you sense the majesty of life, of beauty, of nature, of the human person, of love, of becoming a parent, these are the things that we tend to miss because we are so preoccupied by the noise. If we could reduce the noise in our minds, we would surely sense the beauty of life. We live in a world of doubt and imperfection. We live in a world of noise and distraction. We move so fast that we miss the view. May Rabbi Sachs' memory and his teachings be a guide and a blessing for us all.
Thank you.